Hideo Kojima's Snatcher is one of the coolest games I've ever played and years ahead of its time. This cult classic was released by Konami on the Sega CD in 1994 and was often regarded as one of the best games for the Doomed system, aside from Sonic CD, another favorite of mine. Briefly, if you liked Blade Runner, or really sci-fi in general, you'll love this game. It's an excellent adventure title with some shooting sequences here and there, but it's mostly about a really great story. It's a game that I had a blast with over 2 decades later, and that says something. The story of the game goes like this. On June 6, 1996, a biological weapon known as Lucifer Alpha, under development in Russia, is released into the atmosphere, resulting in the death of 80% of the Eurasian population, which in turn results in the death of half the world's population. The contaminated area becomes uninhabitable for a decade, when Lucifer Alpha mutates into a non-lethal form. This tragic event later becomes known as the Catastrophe. 50 years later, a breed of artificial life forms, or bioroids, known as Snatchers, begin appearing in the artificial island of Neo Kobe City, killing their victims and taking their place in society. Nobody knows exactly what they are or where they come from. As Gillian Seed, an amnesiac working for the anti-snatcher task force called Junker, the player's goal is to hunt down the source of the Snatchers and discover Gillian's mysterious past. The story of this game is the main focus, and it's one hell of a ride. You basically play through a sci-fi movie, complete with some thrilling action scenes, noir detective aspects, and robots. What more do you want? It's rare to say this, but I think this game would make a fantastic live-action movie, like something I'd love to see as a film today. Though I think it would definitely have to have an R rating because this game is for a mature audience for sure. Basically, the game is structured into 3 acts, where you play through a story with little downtime. It's a pretty short game, definitely under 10 hours, but it'll have you hooked the whole time, with interesting plot twists, an unpredictable narrative, and there's always something interesting around the corner. It can be scary, fill you with adrenaline, or make you laugh with some dumb one-liner or pun. It's like a good sci-fi thriller, like Terminator, which makes sense because that's what inspired this game. In fact, you'll catch a lot of influences that inspired this game. It takes a lot of sci-fi elements, puts them together into a unique story, and it's enjoyable all around. Accordingly, the characters are very stereotypical, but they certainly have a ton of charm. The main character Gillian and his companion, Metal Gear, alone make this game work. They're just a likable group of characters. I honestly don't have any complaints about the game's plot. It was mysterious, exciting, and the core characters are excellent, enjoyable, and you want to see them win. What more do you want, again? Let's get down to the actual gameplay. Snatcher has you playing in a first-person perspective, looking at crime scenes, examining things, and presenting evidence, not unlike Phoenix Wright. You'll solve some puzzles, wander around, and generally move the plot forward like any other adventure game. There's a lot to see, and like Phoenix Wright, there's a lot of great dialogue and charm as you go about investigating. However, also like Phoenix Wright, there is this game's biggest issue, and that is how you can get stuck in investigations because you forgot to examine something, present something, or you certainly just did not look at something enough times in order to move the plot forward. That happens more than once, and it can really slow the game down, unfortunately. In fact, yeah, I would say this is the game's biggest problem, as you can find yourself frustrated not knowing what you have and have not examined, or whether you should examine something multiple times. They could at least, dim the things you've already chosen or something. Still, it's not a huge problem as long as you maybe have a walkthrough nearby, but it's still kind of frustrating. The other part of the gameplay is the shooting sequences, which are actually pretty good. You can get a 3x3 grid, and you don't have to worry about aiming with the D-pad too much because of that. There aren't a lot of these sequences, but they break up the slower gameplay once in a while. What I really appreciated about these sequences was that they didn't come up all that often, and when they did come up, it was only really to complement the story or just to keep you on your toes. Pro tip, by the way, the difficulty of these sequences actually depends on how well you do in the training simulator at the beginning of the game. The better you do, the higher the difficulty the game will give you. So don't be an idiot like me and score perfect on the training, because you will regret it at the end of the game. I promise. The graphics in the game are friggin' awesome. I cannot believe they managed this kind of quality in 1994. The game is very cinematic, the animation is pretty detailed and colorful, and the designs are also excellent. They did a great job of making this futuristic city seem a whole lot like Blade Runner or Akira. It's so alive, but scummy and desolate. It's awesome. The character designs were especially detailed and visually interesting. And there's even some gore in this game that just looked plain awesome. This is 1994, this is wow. Again, the graphics really showcase how ahead of its time this game was, but it does not necessarily take the center stage, it's just used to tell a great story, and I love that. The music in the game is also outstanding. Seriously, from the opening jazz theme onwards, you'll find all of this music stuck in your head, even after beating the game in 6 hours. It's insane. The music can be pretty techno, with hints of rock or jazz. Again, it's a lot like Blade Runner soundtrack. It's pretty phenomenal, and I even use one of the songs as an alarm on my phone because it's awesome, and I'm a nerd like that. Probably most impressive of all is that this game has voice acting that isn't terrible. Sure, it sounds robotic in places, but I think it's incredible for the time. Check out other games of this time period and tell me this doesn't hold up. To conclude, Snatcher deserves all the praise it gets. Though it does slow down thanks to investigations sometimes, if you love Blade Runner, sci-fi, or good writing and a good action thriller in general, then I think you'll definitely like this one, especially if you like adventure games. I think it's actually one of my favorite games of all time now, and it's always awesome to find a game that surprises your expectations in the way that this one did, and it just reminds me why I love video games so much. Give it a shot, you won't regret it. Thanks for watching.